Few Good Reviews, episode 11, the series where I basically run down my brief thoughts on albums that you may or may not like, you may or may not care about, but I thought that I needed to fill up content, so I do this video. This DMA's album, fucking hell. What even is this band? They are just so uninspiring to listen to. Like, this album just flew by me completely when I was listening to it. I just found nothing to take away. Like, it's just such a standard sounding album. I get it's quite rootsy in its sort of like English manner, I suppose. Very local in that sort of sense, so I do feel like these guys are more for the people that live in the UK. I don't think anyone will be caring about these over in America, but I could be wrong, but still, this is just like, you know, bog standard indie rock-ish album that has really nothing going for it. I don't know, man. I just, yeah, no. On the flip side though, we got this new Blossoms album. Pretty alright, honestly. I can tell that there'll be a lot of people that kind of pool a lot of indie rock music from the UK all into the same sort of section, you know, the shallow end, if you will, because a lot of it's pretty tepid, I guess. And yeah, I can probably imagine that there'll be people that will do the same for Blossoms, but honestly, I don't think they sound the same as other bands that are in this style. Even though I do that myself, I mean, it's certainly better than the DMA's album, fuck man. But, you know, there's still not really much to take away. I expected some lyrics to stand out that would get on my nerves, but there actually wasn't. You know, I think with a band like Catfish and the Bottlemen, their sort of whiny relationship drama does rub me a little bit, but I didn't really get that from Blossoms, and I actually caught them live a few years back, and they were good live too. And I remember back then thinking that they were going to get big because they'd only had like a handful of singles and an EP, I think, at that point, and then they ended up getting pretty big. It was pretty easy to see that they had a marketable sound. You know, your average Arctic Monkeys fan are going to enjoy Blossoms, but with this album, it's fine. It does have a bit of a synth inspiration from it. It definitely felt quite 80s. A little bit of the Killers in there too, I guess. And randomly, I got a bit of the Sing Street soundtrack. You know how the Sing Street soundtrack just pretty much summed up the 80s perfectly, and this album does that in a similar way too. I think with its sound, it's not full on 80s, but it's pretty nostalgic, but it's inoffensive. It sounds pretty okay, nothing too catchy, nothing too rememberable, but it's fine. This is like a UK special edition of this episode because I'm now going to talk about Anne-Marie, who I dismissed at first as just being another Sia wannabe. You know, she broke out with that song with Clean Bandit, Rockabye Baby, with Sean Paul too. Her vocals on that song, I swear, are just Sia. Like, I was just like, is this Sia? And I had to check. I was like, oh my god, it's not Sia. And it made it even more confusing because Sia did a song with Sean Paul. So I was like, oh, they're doing another one together again? But it turned out it was not Sia, and it's actually an English singer. And she released subsequent singles after this, and they got worse and worse. Fucking Alarm. That is just the worst shit. Oh my god. That's like the worst like EDM inspired stuff that tops the charts these days, and yet every time it does, I'm like, this is still around, and yet it baffles me. Most of this album deals with bland lyrics, relationship type stuff, but other things too. There is a song that seems to be quite directed at teenagers with the sort of like, you know, today I'm not going to wear makeup and it's okay, and stuff like that, lines like that, which I thought weren't too good. But actually, when I realised if there are going to be like 15-year-old girls listening to this, then I actually appreciate that for what she's trying to do. Yeah, much of the album really had some bad lyrics though. I mean, the music was really unoriginal. There was that one line where she was like, I'm going to take my sister to see Eminem because, you know, we've been so excited to see him since we were like 10 or something stupid like that. Like, fine, you know, but it was just such a terrible lyric. And I don't mind the song Friends, which is like the big single for her. I actually think it does a really good job at sort of like tackling the friend zone from a female's perspective, because I know a lot of the time the friend zone can be misconstrued from both sides. Like, one person can see it one way, the other person can see it a completely different way, and I think she does a really good job of that. And it's a pretty catchy song considering Marshmallow's on it, and I don't think much of his usual production, but I actually quite like this song, honestly. Everything else, ciao adios, like, terrible. I swear it sounds like she's saying shower the horse I'm done. And there's other songs as well where like the lyrics, like, you can't tell what she's saying, and then I read into it and I'm like, oh shit, she said that. It's like, sounds nothing like it. But yeah, overall it's a pop album. Pop albums fail these days, honestly, and I shouldn't expect anything more. Going to end off with Lord Huron, which I actually got introduced by my girlfriend for this artist. A really good song, which I forgot the name of. Something with the night we met. I think it's called The Night We Met. A great song. And then they've dropped another album over the past couple of weeks, and this is pretty good, actually. There's the second to last track has a brilliant bass line. Honestly, if you're going to listen to anything, listen to that song, please. It's actually the title track, Vide Noir, of this album. Yeah, like I said, listen to that song. If you're an indie sort of like Portugal Man type fan, I think you'd like this song. But yeah, I really love the bass on this one. It really had a great groove. I wish more songs had that sort of like instrumental finesse, but generally it's actually pretty nice overall. It's very mellow. It delves into chamber pop, some folk as well across the album, and it's one of those pleasant albums that you just don't really have too much negative to say about. The just biggest criticism is that you're probably not going to listen to it very often. You know, it's not going to be topping anyone's year-end list, but I'd still recommend it. I think it's pretty solid overall. Just a nice vibe across the whole thing. The singer's got a nice voice. The band play well. Overall, just like a genuinely nice album that you're probably not going to come across very much, but you should try it out. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Go listen to some of these albums. Definitely the Lord Huron album. Like I said, it's just a pleasant album. You don't come across them very often. A lot of the music discussion online is dominated by people that are talking about albums that have to be amazing or wonderful or have this magnificent concept. You know, this mind-blowing concept. But the Lord Huron album is just really pleasant, and I recommend that the most out of these albums that I talked about. Subscribe to the channel for more reviews, videos like this, interviews, podcasts. The podcast is pretty fun. Go check that out if you never have, and have a good day. Have a good day.